Well, hello students. In the last class, you have studied the adult and larval stage of Ascidia. In this class, you are going to study the retrogressive metamorphosis in Ascidian tadpole. Okay. So, you know that what is Ascidian tadpole? So, this is Ascidian tadpole, and when this Ascidian tadpole undergo certain changes as it becomes adult, we actually call it as a metamorphosis, where the animal undergo certain morphological changes. And here in this class or in this video, we are going to study how this larva develops from this to this stage. Okay. So, metamorphosis in case of Ascidian tadpole, it have usually it have two types of metamorphosis. One is called as progressive metamorphosis, and another one is called as a retrogressive metamorphosis. Retrogressive and progressive metamorphosis. These are the two kinds of metamorphosis which happens in Ascidian tadpole. So, the retrogressive metamorphosis is nothing but, so which is it is actually is a it is a this retrogressive metamorphosis is the characteristics of an ascidians, means it is a Eurocoded character. The name is given here, it is because here the progressive active alert larva metamorphosizes into retrograde sedentary adult. That is why we say it as a retrogressive metamorphosis. Means what happens, usually what happens in all the animals when they undergo metamorphosis. So when they are in larval stage, they actually shows less motility, and they as they become adult, they shows more active. Okay, and the body structure will becomes more advanced. But here in case of this Ascidian tadpole, instead they actually have, or they will show some primitive characters. Means from advanced to they become they will develop primitive characters. Like for example, if you take notochord, in the larva stage they have very well developed notochord. As they become the adult, these notochord will disappears, or it will very much reduces, which is nothing but retrogressive. Why the term we used retrogressive means, retro means you may heard the retro songs, means old songs, right? Exactly in case of sitting tadpole, from advanced to as they become adult, they will shows old characters, which is you could say the non-primitive character, non-coded characters. That's why we characterize retrogressive. Right, from progressive active alert stage to they become retrograde sedentary adult, means from motile to non-motile form they will undergo certain change, which we call it as retrogressive. Okay. Not only this shows that retrogressive means from advanced they will not become primitive, instead they are some characters, they also show some progressive changes. So, during the metamorphosis from tadpole larva to the adult, all the changes are not necessarily degenerative, but some structures which are intimately associated with their survival becomes more elaborated and specialized. Means not all the structures will undergo retrogressive metamorphosis. There are some structures are there which actually becomes more advanced, so they survive, and they become more specialized in the adult stage, which we call it as a progressive change. Like for example, if you take mammals as an example, say usually in mammals what happens, though this is not a metamorphosis, you could say it's a development. Okay, so in mammals what happens, in a developing embryo, the embryo will not, and heart, the heart will not have directly, for heart will not develop directly 4 chambers. Instead, from at the every developmental stage in the embryo, say the heart will first, it will get the 2 chambers, then it will becomes 3, then gradually it becomes 4. At the end of the embryo complete growths, the heart will get 4 chambers. So this is kind of a progressive development, right? This is not a metamorphosis, I am just here giving an example. So this is a progressive change, right? If it is totally opposite, that means if the heart chamber first it was 4, then it becomes 3, then it becomes 2, and finally it becomes 1, then we could say it is a retrogressive metamorphosis, right? So this is the difference between progressive and retrogressive metamorphosis. In Ascidian tadpole, you could see both retrogressive and progressive metamorphosis, but progressive metamorphosis is common in all chordates. Retrogressive, it is very rare case, so that's why in this video I'm only mentioning you the retrogressive metamorphosis. Okay. So before going to the metamorphosis, there are certain changes will happen. That is, we call it as settlement and metamorphosis. So settlement is nothing but the free swimming tadpole larva after a short period of free existence becomes sluggish. It soon fixes itself to the seaweeds or stones by adhesive papillae and immediately falls a victim of fast degeneration. Means when the larva undergoes metamorphosis, especially the retrogressive metamorphosis, they become sluggish, right? And then it quickly fixes to the any seaweeds or any stones with the help of adhesive papillae and undergoes degeneration. Degeneration means losing something, reducing, which is actually called retrogressive metamorphosis. So this is what happens when the retrogressive metamorphosis happens, right? At this stage, the larva becomes negatively phototactic, positively geotactic. What is the meaning of this? So, if you see this picture, you could clearly understand the concept. So, according to settlement, so in the settlement I have mentioned, the larva becomes sluggish and it will attach to the substratum and it will undergo degeneration. So, this is the first stage of retrogressive metamorphosis, and this is second and this is third stage. Okay. So, these are the three stages. So, from what happens active to it undergoes sluggish movement and they become they will attach us to the substratum with the help of adhesive papillae. So, you can see this adhesive papillae here and it undergoes a degeneration. Degeneration means it will reduce some structures, right? You could see that. So, in the first stage what is the structure of the larva, and in the third stage you could see how the structure is different now, right? So, according to the point what I have mentioned, the larva stage in the larva stage they are negatively phototactic and positively geotactic. What's the meaning of it? Simple. See, when the larva in the young larva develops from the embryo, they are actually positively phototactic and negatively geotactic. But at the end of the larva stage, means when they are undergo retrogressive metamorphosis, they are negatively phototactic, positively geotactic. That means phototactic means light loving, geotactic means geotactic means towards the gravity, which we call it geotactic. So, and the larva is in the young stage, they are active, right, as you all know, they are very active. So, they actually move towards, that shows the motility towards the light, and but they don't move towards the ground or towards the gravity. They almost present in the water surface. But when they undergo retrogressive metamorphosis, they are negatively phototactic, means they don't like light. Instead, they will start to move towards the ground, which is nothing but, or towards the gravity, which is called positively geotactic. Means that is the stage when they will find the substratum and they will attach, right? That's why it is positively geotactic. Some authors believe that the habitat selection is the main cause for metamorphosis of Ascidian tadpole larva. So, whatever the metamorphosis will happen is actually because the selection of habitat. When they find the habitat, then only they will undergo metamorphosis. That is actually the meaning of the sentence. Okay. Now see what are the retrogressive changes will happen. Up to here you have came to know that, so before retrogressive metamorphosis what are certain things will happen in the larva. Let us see actual retrogressive metamorphosis. After fixation, the length of the tail becomes greatly diminished, the nerve cord becomes restricted to the trunk region and ultimately reduced to solid nerve cord. So, along with the picture, if you read the concept, you will understand really well. So according to the first part, just after the fixation, the length of the tail becomes greatly reduced, diminished. So you could see that. So this is the tadpole, Ascidian larval, not adult, Ascidian larva, and this is the second larval stage, and this is adult. You could see here. So just fixation of after the fixation, the length of the larva becomes greatly reduced. So if you see the larva of Ascidia, almost 70 to 80% of their body is actually majorly have tail portion. could see here how the tail is reducing here, and if you see the adult, there is no tail at all, right? There is no tail here, right? So this is the picture again in the water media. You could see here. So this is the tail portion of the larva, first stage, and this is the second stage, and this is third stage, and finally it becomes like this. Can you see any tail structure here? No. That means there it is again they are showing the retrogressive metamorphosis. If you remember, say I have mentioned you the main key characters of chordates, presence of post-anal tail. But look at here, at the larva stage they actually had a post-anal tail, but as they become adult there is no tail structure present. It is completely disappears or vanishes, right? Okay. The nerve cord becomes restricted to the trunk region and is ultimately reduced to solid nerve ganglion. The notochord becomes called disorganized and finally disappears. So, the notochord and nerve cord, they reduces their size. Okay, just look at here. So, this is notochord, right? So, then you look at the size of the notochord. You know that in case of Ascidian tadpole, the notochord is confined to the tail region. So, here you have the notochord here, but look at this. So, this is notochord, and see the adult, there is no notochord here, right? So, the notochord becomes coiled, disorganized and finally disappears. You could clearly see that the notochord is completely absent in the adult stage. Okay, so adult stage what happens? So, the larva will lose its notochord structure. That's why we call it as a retrogressive, because in the chordate, if you say a chordate, they should have notochord and it should develop as a backbone, right? But here what happens, they have actually notochord in the larva, but in the larva, in the adult, there is no notochord, right? And then the nerve cord, right? They have mentioned here nerve cord. So for the nerve cord, okay, so nerve cord is actually present just above the okay, so you can see here, so this is actually they have mentioned like this vertically, but there is no that doesn't makes any difference. Okay, so here this is the nerve cord, right? So nerve cord is always present just above the notochord, right? So see the changes from here. So this is from first stage and this is the last stage, means it is adult stage. You could see here there is no nerve cord present, right? Of course it's present, but is actually reduced to nerve ganglion. You could see here adult ganglion, right? See how long it was when it is in the larval stage, but when it reaches to this stage, see it becomes a small ganglion size, means it reduces its size, means is again you could say it is a retrogressive, right? Okay, so the trunk becomes broadened, is that right? So this is the trunk region, right? So in the first stage, in the larval stage, the trunk is much more broader, a little bit broader. When it reaches second stage, see the size is increased more here, and when it reaches the adult stage, see the size, right? It is much more broader, right? So that is actually change which will happen in the retrogressive metamorphosis. Okay, the mouth is shifted to 90 degrees from the point of attachment. Shifting of the mouth is caused by the rapid growth of region between adhesive papillae and mouth, and also inhibition of growth of original dorsal side. Okay, so for this, let's see the picture of this. See, if you see here, where is the mouth present? Oral aperture. Okay, so this is oral aperture. If you remember, I told you that say they actually have mouth structure, but it is actually what happens. They won't take any food because they only live in the water for limited hours, that just like maximum 4 to 5 hours. So at that time they will just undergo metamorphosis. So that's why they won't take any food. That's why they won't, even though they have mouth, the digestive system is not well developed. So according to the point they have mentioned here, the mouth is shifted to the 90-degree point from the point of attachment. So let's take a picture. So let's see, just I will explain you with rough diagram. Let's consider this is as a larva. Okay, so this is adhesive papilla. Okay, so this is the point which is helpful for attachment, right? And they usually have the oral aperture or mouth here, like in the head region near to adhesive papillae, they will have mouth, right? So according to the point, the mouth is shifted shifted to 90-degree from the point of attachment. So what is the meaning of this? So when the larva here like this, okay, so when the adhesive papilla attaches to the substratum, so the mouth will, so this is adult, right? So if you have some, the mouth is present here and it will gradually shift it to here. If you remember, I told you the atrial branchial apertures, right? ಸೊ ಏನಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಎರಡು ಮೌತ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಎರಡು ಓಪನಿಂಗ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಅಡಲ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ. ಒಂದು ಬ್ರಾಂಕಿಯಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ ಅಥವಾ ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏಟ್ರಿಯಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಬ್ರಾಂಕಿಯಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಏನಕ್ಕೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಮೌತಿಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರಿಗೆ ಹೇಳೋದು. ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನು, ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ 90-ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ಆ್ಯಂಗಲಿಗೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಮೌತ್, ಹೌದಾ? Shifting of mouth is caused by the rapid growth region between the adhesive papillae and mouth, and also due to the inhibition growth of original dorsal site. Okay, so what happens, why the movement of mouth takes place is because the movement or shifting of mouth is actually caused by the growth increased, especially in the adhesive papillae region and in the mouth region. ಮೌತ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಅಡೆಸಿವ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಅದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿಯಾಗಿ ಹೀಗೆ ಬೆಂಡ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಬೆಂಡ್ ಆದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ಕಾಗಿ ಈ ಬ್ರ್ಯಾಕಿಯಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಆಗಿ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ದಟ್ಸ್ ವೈ ಯು ಕುಡ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ ದ ಮೌತ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಅಟ್ ದ ಅಪ್ಪರ್ ಸರ್ಫೇಸ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಅಡಲ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಯು ಕುಡ್ ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್. ಸೊ ಇದು ನೀವು ಈ ಥರ ತಗೋಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಹೀಗೆ ಈ ಥರನೂ ಇದು ಲಾರ್ವಲ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಈ ಥರ ಲಾರ್ವ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಅಡಲ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೀಗೆ ತೊಗೊಬೋದು. ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ, ಹೌದಾ? ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿದೆ. ಈಗ ಮೂಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಹೌದಾ? ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ, 90 ಆ್ಯಂಗಲ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿಗೆ ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಹೌದಾ? ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರು ಮತ್ತು ಅಡೆಸಿವ್ ಪ್ಯಾಪಿಲ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ರೀಜನ್ನು ಮತ್ತು ಈ ರೀಜನ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದು ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಅಡೆಸಿವ್ ಪ್ಯಾಪಿಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಗ್ರೋತ್ ಆಗೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಈ ರೀಜನ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಈ ಪೋರ್ಷನ್ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದು ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಮೌತ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್. ಓಕೆ, which we call it as a retrogressive metamorphosis. Okay, so you could see clearly the changes which happens in the larva from here. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಆಗಿ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಓರಲ್ ರೀಜನ್ ಇಂದ ಓರಲ್ ಸೈಫಾನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಓರಲ್ ಅಪರ್ಚರ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಇಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಶಿಫ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಶಿಫ್ಟೆಡ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಹಿಯರ್ to here means totally it is shifted from this region to this region, which is a 90-degree movement, right? So this is actually what we call it as retrogressive metamorphosis. From exam point of view, this concept is very important, and so that's all for retrogressive metamorphosis. Okay, I hope you remember all the concepts that I have given you in the previous videos and even this video. So if you like this concept, please (1956). Okay, so that's all for today's class. Thank you.